Beef is crazy expensive, and you don't want to mess it up. Trust me, I get it. And plus, if you're making a big beef tenderloin roast like this for the family, you only get one shot to get it right. I'm going to show you my foolproof way to make sure it's cooked perfectly every single time. And we're going to serve it up with some roasted mushrooms and a delicious garlic herb sauce. We have to start off with some prep first. Sound good? Let's cook. We're going to get into this tasty garlic and herb sauce. I'm going to start with some fresh thyme. You have to use some fresh herbs here. So I roll it up and finely mince it. It is totally okay to use the stems here. There is so much flavor in them. Do not discard them. Use them up. Plus, it'll help render more. We're going to do the exact same thing with some fresh rosemary sprigs. Roll them up, fold them over, and then finely mince them. Be sure to keep those fingertips curled in so that you can safely, finely chop these up. Last but not least, I've got some Italian flat leaf parsley. You could use curly parsley if that's all that is available. And just like with the thyme and the rosemary, we roll it up and then we finely chop it up. So much flavor in the stems. All of those are good to use. Be sure that your parsley is rinsed and dried off. We are going to set that to the side in the bowl with the other herbs. Just a few more things to add to the sauce, beginning with a shallot. We are going to slice off the ends, slice it in half, and then of course remove that outside peel. Now we actually are going to need this whole shallot. Half for this sauce, and the other half is going to be for some mushrooms. So while you are finely mincing them, put one in the bowl with the herbs and put the other to the side in a small bowl. The next thing we're going to do is add in some garlic. You know it's going through a press. Similar to the shallot, add a few more cloves to that press and put it through and set it to the side in another separate bowl. Okay, let's mix everything together with a little bit of olive oil. This sauce is very similar to a chimichurri sauce. Obviously, the herbs are different. There's no acid in there like red wine vinegar or lemon juice, but it is very, very tasty and perfect for meat. We are going to season it up with a little bit of salt and pepper as well. Don't worry, this sauce freezes excellently if you don't use all of it in this recipe. We're going to set it to the side, and now we're going to pull out our fresh mushrooms. First, I know this looks like a ton, but mushrooms are a lot like baby spinach. Once you cook it, it seems to cook down, and it literally cuts in like an eighth of the size. All mushrooms are good to use here. And just like with any fresh mushroom, I've got a damp paper towel. Just rub off any unwanted particles on the mushroom if you see them. You don't have to go one by one, but if you see them, just give them a quick little brush. We're going to start with some baby Bella mushrooms. Slice off the ends, roll it over to help stabilize it, and then just thinly slice down until all of them are sliced. They're going back to that bowl, by the way. And next for some shiitake mushrooms, just pull off the stem. Now, I don't use the stem because it's a little bit chewy, but we're going to set it to the side because I've got some plans for it a little bit later. But just as a side note, you could use it if you want. Again, pull the stem off. See how it easily removes from the cap there. Set it to the side. But what I do is add these to the freezer and I save it for stock. Really makes a nice, bold, rich stock. Now to slice these up, stack up the caps of your shiitake mushrooms and then thinly slice it. Almost just like julienne basil. Set that to the side in the bowl. And then last but not least, some oyster mushrooms. They're held together by this cluster at the bottom that we simply need to slice off and remove. For preparing oyster mushrooms, you just pull them apart and pull them down right through the stem. They tear very, very easily. You could slice them, but this is a great way to make sure they keep their shape. Again, all mushrooms are good here. Trumpet royales, maitakes, whatever you want to use. We are going to set these to the side and let's pull out our beef tenderloins. Now I have two 2-pound beef tenderloins here. It feeds about 8 people. You only need one if you're going to feed maybe a family of 4 or guests for 4 people. That ensures about 8 ounces of beef per person. Now these are center cut beef tenderloins. So when you go to the butcher at your local grocery store or butcher shop, make sure to ask them for center cuts. These are nice, thick, all the way down. We do need to truss it, however, this will help keep its shape and seal in the juices. To do so, follow closely. We're going to add the butcher's twine underneath the beef tenderloin going in about 1 inch. Tie a double knot. This is known as a Swiss knot. It helps to keep it intact. Then double knot it again and then firmly pull it tight. Now what we do is we're going to lay that long string forward over the beef tenderloin. Come in about at 2 inches after that last knot. And now what we do is take the long piece of butcher's twine, wrap it around the beef tenderloin, keep your finger there just like I had it. You take that long piece and you put it underneath. Now, this can be tough to do while doing it at first because what you do is go all the way down the line, repeating that same process until the very end of the beef tenderloin. If you're not comfortable with doing this, you can absolutely tie knots every 2 inches with shortcut butcher twine strings. Okay, flip it over. We're going to wrap that long butcher's twine underneath every other wrap that we have on the bottom. And then there should be a little string left over on that backside from our first knot. Tie it in a nice knot and use scissors or a knife and simply remove the remaining bit. Okay, that was a lot. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 1/4 cup of our delicious garlic and herb olive oil sauce, pour it over top. Be sure to use 2 different spoons here. We don't want to go back in with raw meat all over that spoon. So rub it all over on both sides. Make sure it is completely coated. Now we want to season generously on both sides with salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Once it is seasoned up, we're taking that platter right over to our cooktop. I've got a large rondeau pot. You could use a large frying pan. We're going to add some oil, immediately turn the heat to high. I like to use olive oil, by the way, just very comfortable cooking with it. Once it begins to lightly smoke, see that smoke rolling off there? Perfect time to start searing. We're going to add our beef tenderloins in there. Make sure they don't touch each other. We're not trying to steam it. We're trying to sear it. Immediately turn the heat from high down to medium-high heat. At this point, I like to add in a little butter. It's going to help brown it up. Plus, this is a pretty lean cut of meat. We're going to add some more fat to it. And just like in my steak au poivre video, after about a minute or two, I like to just move it around a little bit. Make sure you get that beautiful brown sear completely across the beef tenderloin. Now, we are cooking this on all sides. That does not mean 2 sides, the top and the bottom. That means we're also cooking it on the other 2 sides as well. This is going to go a long way to ensuring our steak is perfectly cooked in the center. This is about 2 to 2.5 minutes per side to get that beautiful golden brown, just like you see here. At this point, we're going to lay our beef tenderloins flat from being on their side. We are going in the oven only at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to take in between 20 and 25 minutes to get that perfect medium rare internal temperature around 120 to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. This is also perfect timing to roast up our mushrooms. So in a very large frying pan with olive oil on high heat, once it gets to that smoke point like this, we're adding our mushrooms in, but we are not going to turn the heat down at all for this. We want to really brown and caramelize these up well, so spread them across the pan. After about 3 to 4 minutes of them cooking, we're going to come back, use a spoon, a spatula, or even some tongs. Start to move the mushrooms around and saute them until they are very brown. This process takes about a total of 10 to 12 minutes. Once they are brown, you've seen me do this before, scoot the mushrooms to one side of the pan, and in the other side of the pan, we are going to add in some unsalted butter, followed up with that other half shallot that we diced up, and then last but not least, a few of those finely minced garlic cloves that we ran through our garlic press. Now, stir everything around on this bottom side of the pan. We want to just cook the garlic and mushrooms really quickly, maybe just a minute. They say once you smell garlic, it's done cooking. After that amount of time, go ahead and mix everything together until it is completely combined. Let's increase the flavor here by deglazing with some red wine. I'm going to be using Cabernet Sauvignon. You could use Merlot, a Syrah, a Shiraz, totally up to you as long as it's a nice dry red wine. We're going to cook it for 2 to 3 minutes. It's going to completely absorb into the mushrooms. This is known as au sec or almost gone, so just a little bit of liquid should remain in the pan. At this point, let's add in some good beef stock. We're going to cook this down for a further 3 to 4 minutes. We want the flavors to concentrate. We also want the mushrooms to be nice and juicy and tender, and that beef stock is really going to help. Going back to the wine, there really is no great substitute, so just skip that part if you want. And now we're going to season it well with salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Add a little bit of fresh thyme to the mix. Using a spoon, mix everything together until it is completely combined. And definitely try out these mushrooms right now. They are so dang tasty. Let's set this to the side and keep it warm because this is such perfect timing. It's all about timing, my friends. Let's pull that beef tenderloin out because they are completely done cooking. We're going to set them to the side on our cutting board and let them rest for 4 to 5 minutes before slicing them up. But before we even do that, be sure to remove the butcher's twine. The last thing you're going to want to do is have your guests pull out some string that's wrapped around the meat. Simple techniques applied to simple ingredients go such a long way. Making sure your beef tenderloin is trussed up to help seal in those juices. Taking the time to caramelize those mushrooms. Oh my goodness, it takes it to a whole different level. You are going to love this. This is a meal you are going to be proud to serve up to your friends, family, guests, whoever it is. We are going to plate this thing up though. We got a few steps. Here we go. You have to start off by slicing up this beef tenderloin. It's way too beautiful, and it's obviously easier to eat once it is sliced. Let's have a look in the middle. I got that beautiful rare to medium rare. Remember, I pulled it out once it was 120 degrees internally. Get yourself a good thermometer. Don't forget that. Next, to plate it up, I'm going to add it right to a cutting board with that chunk, with those slices, and then go back over to that nice garlic and herb sauce and brush some more on top. Be sure to serve the mushrooms on the side in a little bowl. And then, of course, don't forget about extra garlic herb sauce. And you've got the most amazing beef tenderloin recipe for you, for your family. They are going to love this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it. And definitely check out this recipe right here. I made it just for you guys. Let's get in this.